The Baltimore bridge collapse. An expert explains how disasters like this can happen. This is by Alan Post from The Conversation. But before I go into the details, I want to tell you that the captain of the ship is Ukrainian, and I asked my son, who is a shipping lawyer, and he says that most ships, Greek ships, well, this was not a Greek ship, but we know that Greeks have like 50% of commercial shipping in the world. It doesn't matter if they have foreign flags instead of the Greek flag, but they have, most ships have Ukrainian captains because they're cheap for the payroll, okay? So every cent counts, obviously. These shipping magnates are very careful about their profits. So the Ukrainian captains, he says, are cheaper than captains that you have to pay, in various insurances for. So the Baltimore bridge collapse, and the expert explaining how disasters like this can happen. Details are still emerging about the disaster because obviously there's going to be litigation on this. That it happened in the early morning, March 26, 2024, when the Dali, a large cargo ship, it's a container carrier, as we can see, on its way out of the port of Baltimore, hit a major bridge and caused it to collapse. And it didn't have a pilot, a tugboat taking it out, unfortunately. Now, The Conversation senior politics and democracy editor Naomi Shalit spoke with Captain Alan Post, a veteran ship's officer, about the role a ship pilot plays in bringing a large ship in and out of the harbor. What was your first thought when you heard about the accident? Post said, my first thought was like, thank God it happened at night because of the low amount of traffic on the bridge. If that had happened during daytime, casualties would be in the thousands. My heart aches for those lives lost, he said. There were two ship's pilots aboard the ship as it left its berth in the port of Baltimore. Can you tell us what ship pilots do? Post said ship pilots are brought on board in what are considered restricted maneuverability or navigation areas. They are local experts who are usually certified by the state or federal government to provide advice to the master of the vessel, the captain that is, as to how to control the vessel safely and adequately through the pilotage waters, which in this case would be down the river from the port of Baltimore. Pilots are well practiced in close quarters maneuvering, especially with tugboats and docking the vessel alongside the assigned berth. But a pilot does not come aboard the ship and take control of it, do they? Post said they are just advisors to the captain, who is known as the master. The master still has full responsibility for the safe navigation of the vessel, so the pilot will meet the ship out at sea or at the dock if it's in port and leaving to go to sea. They proceed up to the bridge. Usually they exchange greetings, and usually a little bit of ship's swag is given, either a hat or something else, or at least a cup of coffee. Then they set up their gear. With the electronics that we now have, they plug into the ship's electronic chart data information system, and then they conduct the pilot exchange with the master of the vessel, where the master of the vessel describes where they are going and what characteristics of the ship are, who's on the bridge and what their first language is, and the air draft of the vessel, which refers to how high out of the water the vessel is, so that you know whether you can take the ship under a bridge safely. Once that's completed, the pilot then starts instructing the officer of the watch or the captain, those are usually the same person, in how to get to where they need to be to dock the ship or undock the ship and bring it to the sea. This instructing is done during complex maneuvers, not all the time. The pilot can also say he's not going to do it and can shut down their operations if conditions are unsafe or if they feel that the vessel is not in condition to be able to transit safely. That happens a lot, especially in fog. The ship pilot also interacts with the Coast Guard vessel traffic service and other ships in the area and coordinates with the tugboats and line handlers to be able to safely maneuver the vessel close to the pier or when a ship is leaving the berth. And the question put to him, can you describe the training of a ship pilot? And Post said, most of them start out at a marine academy and have to spend many years at sea in command or as a bridge watchstander on a vessel. From there, they start into the pilot apprentice program, and each one of the pilot associations has, and those programs last for years. What they do in those programs is use simulators and real, actual hands-on training so that they can see how the different ships maneuver, how different places along the route have different currents and tides, and how the channels affect the ships. It's not something that you can get to a sea school for 3 weeks and learn and then come out and be a pilot. It's many long years. They're really the surgeons of the sea. And the question, so when the ship's pilot shows up, they're going to be someone with a minimum of how many years training before they even get onto your ship? Post said many have 10 years plus before they're allowed to work on their own. Question, they have to be specialists in the place where they work, don't they? Post said most of them are ship's officers licensed by the U.S. Coast Guard, and they're licensed for unlimited tonnage vessels, but that's not the end of the training. From there, they're hired into the pilot apprentice programs for the area in which they're going to gain their pilot endorsement or credentials. One pilot may not be credentialed in another area. They spend many years under the guidance of senior pilots who teach them basically everything that they need to know about the local waterways, about the navigation, current tides, and where all the berths are. They become absolute experts in how to do this. And then when most of them end up taking the pilotage exam, they have to draw the charts that they would be using in the pilotage waters from memory. Question, are there legal requirements for the ship's pilots to be present both going out of and coming into these restricted areas? Post said, yes, there are, state law, federal law, or both. Question, is there an almost 1,000 foot long vessel? This is an almost 1,000 foot long vessel. Is that big, small, or medium? Post said, that's about standard size these days. Ship sizes have absolutely grown monstrous over the years, but 1,000 feet is just about normal. Has ship piloting been around for a long time? Post said, it's been around for almost as long as man has been using the sea for commerce. In the early years of sea travel, and even now, a captain is not going to know every port, so he would bring on a person with local knowledge. It started out a lot of times as local fishermen, and in the U.S., the Sandy Hook Pilots Association has been piloting ships in and out of New York Harbor for about 300 years. What happened in Baltimore every captain, pilot, and crew's nightmare? Post said, absolutely. My initial assumption is that I think it's going to come down to an electrical fault on the ship that was just terrible timing. This is on the Conversations by Creative Commons license here by Alan Post, Deputy Superintendent, Texas A&M Maritime Academy, Texas A&M University. And this is on Science Alert. Please leave your comments and thank you for your support. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.